What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. It's time for us to talk about what just happened at SummerSlam 2017. The pay-per-view just ended about a half an hour ago from when we are recording this. So our whole perspectives are very fresh in our minds. The dust has not yet settled, and it's time for us to kind of break down the highlights, the low points, what we liked, what we didn't like, all the things in between, a little bit of the results along the way as well, and just anything else we have floating around in our brains at the moment. And people doing that, well, of course, I am, your host, as always, Tony Mango, and I'm joined by Callum Wiggins. What's up, Callum?
Wow, 6 hours of wrestling. That was an exhausting experience.
And we also have to check out that bracketology, I guess.
Yeah, I'll get to that eventually. I think I might sleep first.
Yeah, I'll be up all night, so I'm sure I'll put that on the background. Maybe it'll kind of soften the blow a little bit, because I have to start this off by saying, did you listen to the NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 3 review on here? I hope you did, because if that's the case, then you know that I'm not somebody who hates everything. But I hated almost everything for SummerSlam. I am going to rant for almost the entire podcast. So if this is one of those things where you're like, oh my god, I loved it, and Tony fucking hates everything or whatever, I will have a couple positives, but I predominantly disliked almost everything on this card. And it almost felt at some point to me that I was like, did they check my predictions and what I would want to happen and purposely did the opposite? It felt like that a little bit, but thankfully Callum's not in the same boat that I am. Did not hate it anywhere near as much as I hated it. So you will hear some positives.
Yeah, I was a bit more balanced. I think it was a overall decent show, some really good stuff, but the bad stuff on this show was abominable in many areas. And so I will be ranting a little bit. I'll join you on a couple of rants, but I'll try and be a bit more cheery so people go home happy and thinking that we're not just bitter fucks.
I already added this into my list as one of the worst events of the year.
It would take some beating for me to top Battleground for that.
I'm pretty sure I have Battleground on there. I know I have Money in the Bank in there because I kind of remember Money in the Bank pissing me off quite a bit.
I think basically any SmackDown show post WrestleMania is pretty much on my list.
Let me see, actually, now that I have that up on my page right now. The ones that I had written down at the very least, although I have a note to myself about like that I should go back and kind of check out the results because I don't know for sure if they're all really bad and whatever is. Oh wait, I just lost it. Pay-per-view. There you go. I have written down Royal Rumble, WrestleMania 33, and Great Balls of Fire as the 3 best so far. And I've got Extreme Rules, Money in the Bank, Battleground, and SummerSlam as the worst.
Is that just for WWE? Are we like separating WWE and NXT events?
Oh, I just don't have NXT down because I forgot to put down Brooklyn 3 as one of the best. I actually should do that before I forget about that. So let's go with pay-per-view and let's go with NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 3. So there you go, everybody. See, I acknowledge the good stuff I like. I'm never one to say that everything has to be bitching and complaining and this ocean of sadness or whatever we were talking about on the Mega Maniacs at one point. But man, there is some brutal shit that happened at this event. First things first, let's start off with the pre-show, because the pre-show panel, you write it off. I mean, nothing really goes on with the panel stuff. So to me, I can't talk about that as being one of the worst things of the night. It's just what it is. You know, you get Charlie Caruso to talk to people in the social media lounge. Doesn't really matter. You can skip it. You get Renee Young talking to Jerry Lawler and all that. I was a little bit surprised, though, at how much hate Peter Rosenberg got for his jacket from Jerry Lawler.
Oh, it's kind of what I saw people talking about on Twitter and along those lines was he was trying to emulate Bobby the Brain Heenan almost. And I think people just get up their nose a little bit of someone trying to emulate someone so iconic.
To me, it's fine. It's like it's the homage of one of your favorite guys, you know? Like, that's like wearing a Stone Cold vest and then being like, you're just desecrating his memory even though he's not dead. Like, you know? It was a little bit strange.
I just think it's just they think that it's someone who's not in the business, so he doesn't deserve that.
That's
To that,
BS.
yeah, it goes a little bit overboard, but I'm
I
not his
like the
biggest fan
jacket,
anyway.
Rosenberg. Keep the jacket. Thumbs up from me. One of the few thumbs up I have of the night is your jacket, dude.
Well, if we're talking about like pre-show thumbs up, obviously we'll be talking about the matches probably in more detail. But
yeah,
I think the pre-show in general was a step down from the NXT one, and I didn't think the NXT one was particularly special. But there were two highlights for me outside of when we actually get into the matches. Was Elias's performance.
Yeah, that was a nice thing. Really liked that one, especially
He got
his line
so much
about
hate.
Brooklyn lost its balls.
He got so much heat. It was brilliant. He's like someone who is actually performing better on the main roster than he did in NXT, which is very few people can say that. And then Carmella as well. I thought her promo that she cut and her and James Ellsworth together, I think that worked pretty well. Also, her ring attire was...
when it came to that.
Yeah.
Nothing stood out, but, nothing bugged me about it either.
Her ring attire was pretty,
I did like that.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Thumbs up, keep wearing it.
Kind of strange, that KFC promo with everybody, including Shawn Michaels.
It was like I was having a fever dream.
Yeah. I didn't dislike it, though. It's fine. It's a KFC promo. They get a little bit of money from KFC. It's a pre-show. I don't really care. So I'm not going to be like, that's one of the worst things of the night, and that's why SummerSlam's terrible. But here's one thing that really pissed me off. Why do you have the pre-show start at 5 o'clock, and you don't seem to let fans in until, 10 after 5?
Yeah.
Nobody was in the fucking arena with that 6-man tag match.
I know. I think I put out a tweet at the time which said, well, at least the Hardy
people are watching this match. I thought it was great.
Oh no, I put another one which saying that, well, at least the Hardy Boys are used to performing in front of about 200 people. So
it seemed like it. At the end of the match, the Miz goes up to this one dude who's sitting there, and it's like, yeah, fucker, yeah, I won the match, Phil.
He looked genuinely pissed. He looks really angry that he was performing in front of so few people.
It's SummerSlam. It should be one of the biggest events of the year, and it's maybe somebody knows. As far as everything for this podcast, by the way, everybody, leave your comments below. Whether you agree with me, whether you disagree with me, whether you have something to fill us in on that we're wrong about or right about or anything like that, leave your comments below. And tell me if you think that there's some kind of a specific reason for this. Because the only thing I can think of is that maybe there's some kind of a problem with staffing and that they can only open up certain areas of the entrance because they don't have enough people staffed to do it. But if that's the case, I don't know if that's WWE's fault or the arena's fault, but they should fix that problem. And if it's an issue where it's they can't legally open the doors until 5 o'clock because it's a 5 o'clock until 11 or so venue, then wait and do the matches when you've seated everybody. I can't understand the rationalization for let's have only a few people in the crowd and then let's throw our match out there. Even a match that doesn't matter like this one, because this match did not matter at all.
No, not at all. I tried to equate it to the idea that once upon a time the Intercontinental Championship was being defended in front of 90,000 people at Wembley in the main event at SummerSlam. And this time it was the first match of the kickoff show. It wasn't even being defended and it was in front of about 30 people.
It's really awful. All these guys, even Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel, deserved better than that.
Oh yeah, 100%. The match, I couldn't find myself getting invested in the match because you just are looking around at all the empty seats. Mm-hmm. It's eerie. So even if people were doing good stuff during the match, and I'm sure they were, I just couldn't pay attention to it.
I was distracted by that, and I was distracted by the idea that I just couldn't get invested in it because I knew that it wouldn't matter. And I'm even looking at this now. It's the Miz got the win for his team. I would think, more than anything, that they should just move on to separate feuds and stuff. But is this going to turn into one of those things where it's well, even though they lost, they're going to want to get another chance, and then they're going to have another 6-man tag on Raw, and because nobody got to see it, so let's just redo what we're having a SummerSlam rematch tonight, everybody. This is great. The night after SummerSlam, you're getting the same match for the second time. That kind of crap. Mm-hmm. I just did not like the booking of this. I didn't like the placement of it. I mean, I don't think it should have been on the main card and something else should have been bumped in that spot. That's for sure. But it's the arena situation was the biggest botch when it came to that. And I don't think that there's any rationalization for it.
No, 100%. It was terrible that they had to perform in front of so few people in a match that nobody really cared about. I don't think the booking of putting The Miz over, even though it's the typical 50-50 booking of, oh, they lost the six-man tag team match last week on Raw, so we'll give the other team the six-man tag win because this match doesn't matter in any way, shape or form. I think this is just going to lead towards an eventual Intercontinental Championship match between Jason Jordan and The Miz. Hopefully the way they get there is a bit more thought out than what they're doing right now.
I don't know if this is an issue with like the whole rest of the pay-per-view or not, but the way that they booked these matches to me makes it think like either they didn't think ahead of time, and when they were going over the card tonight, they just said like, how about we just change all the titles just for the hell of it? Just titles make people happy, that kind of thing. Or that they did think this all through, and I have absolutely no idea why they think that these are some good ideas, but that kind of takes me into the next thing, which is Neville defeating Akira Tozawa for the Cruiserweight Championship. I don't dislike Neville as the champion. I actually really, really like him as the champion. And I like Akira Tozawa. But what was the point of putting the title on Akira Tozawa? 6 days later, he drops it to Neville.
Because it was the thing that I was telling you about when I was talking about the predictions for SummerSlam. It was along the lines of they start hot potatoing title belts when they are worried that people are losing interest.
Mm-hmm.
Which they are, because nobody's paying any attention to the Cruiserweights. Their match was, I thought, if it had been on TakeOver Brooklyn, say, or a bit more of an intimate setting, they would have been getting huge reactions, because I think some of the stuff they were doing was really good in this match.
Yeah, it was a pretty good match. And
but
that's not surprising to me either, because they've had some good matches before.
Yeah, they definitely deliver more than they produce bad matches, but nobody cared at all. Like, they occasionally got a bit more invested when Akira Tozawa was doing the ha, ha, ha type shouting, and Neville is always good to generate a bit of heat with the way that he treats his opponents like they're beneath him. But overall, there wasn't enough people in the crowd still, and they just didn't seem to be interested in what was taking place.
They're probably still trying to figure out where their seats are.
Yeah.
But it pisses me off about the title change stuff, because it's like, I don't mind if they do that every once in a while, but they've been doing that quite a bit recently. They did that with the United States title. They've done it with the Cruiserweight title. We've had a couple tag team title switches since WrestleMania. And it's been a running theme with 2017.
It's a lot of like title changes that are just happening out of the blue.
If I look at the title reign list, for instance, we've had 5 WWE champions, 3 Universal champions, 3 Intercontinental, which, relatively speaking, that's not too bad. You know, to have like 3 of a certain champion, Universal and the Intercontinental. I'll give a pass on that one. We've had this is the United States Championship, for instance, in 2017. Roman Reigns, Chris Jericho, Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho, Kevin Owens, AJ Styles, Kevin Owens, AJ Styles. Holy shit. That's like a new champion every month.
Yeah.
The Cruiserweight title, Rich Swann, Neville, Akira Tozawa, Neville. Raw Women's title has been switched 4 times. The SmackDown Women's title has gone from Bliss to Naomi to vacant to Bliss to the Naomi, now to Natalya. We'll get to that later on. We've had, for the Raw Tag Team titles, Cesaro and Sheamus, Anderson and Gallows, Hardy Boys, Cesaro and Sheamus. Now we got new champions again with that. American Alpha, Usos, New Day Usos. It's like, they're switching these titles around like they don't know anything better to do, and they just kind of go, well, let's have a new champion, because we haven't had a new champion in a little bit, and it's been 3 weeks, that kind of a thing.
But it just strikes me as odd that some people don't see that as a fundamental issue. That some people say, oh, it's fine, it's just titles changing. The titles either don't mean too much, which is a problem in and of itself, or it's exciting to see the titles change hands. Whereas, like, if you look back to, say, WCW, when people look back on it and say one of the terrible things that led to their downfall was the fact that they kept changing their championships over and over and over again. And it's not at that level just yet, but it's still doing nothing to build up the prestige of the championships or the people holding them.
And before anybody even says it, no, that does not mean I advocate for Brock Lesnar's title reign. Just because I don't like the idea of people switching the titles constantly does not mean that I think it's a good idea to have a champion that doesn't exist, basically. So we'll get to that a little bit later on, because I do have positive things to say about that too.
Mm-hmm.
But some negatives too. But the Tozawa thing pisses me off, because it's like, well, you know what? If you felt you needed to put the belt on Tozawa just to have something going into SummerSlam, but you really wanted Neville to just basically still stay this champion, you should have booked a different match instead of Tozawa. You know?
Yeah.
Whoever the next guy is, whether it's Cedric Alexander, Aleister Black, Tony Nese, TJP, I don't know, whoever Neville is going to fight up next, that guy should have just been fighting him at SummerSlam to me.
Yeah, I completely agree. I just don't see the long-term gain of having... What does it do to Tozawa to have held the Cruiserweight Championship for 6 days?
Right.
It doesn't do anything for him. It doesn't change anything for Neville. Like, he went through a period of being slightly dishevelled. If he'd have lost this match, I would have been totally fine with it, because it could lead Neville down to a new, different direction. But now it just goes back to the status quo.
Yeah, by last week is exactly the same as what we are right now. Mm-hmm. If you would have skipped this past episode of Monday Night Raw, you would have thought nothing changed on the Cruiserweight roster.
Well, yeah, I think most people never know that anyway, because they just don't check it out. Also, who is that guy who's the new commentator?
Vic Joseph.
Yeah, I had no idea who he was, because I don't watch G5 Live.
He's Tom Phillips light.
He was quite good. I thought he was trying to add a little bit of emphasis into the match. He tried to build it up, so he's clearly got some talent behind him.
Yeah, he's not bad. He's I like Tom Phillips, and he seems like he's kind of in the same vein as Tom Phillips. They're both beanpole, generic looking white guys, you know. I would be cool with them replacing him with somebody else, but he doesn't annoy me. He's not like a Todd Grisham, where it was just dude, have a little bit of enthusiasm, you know. Oh, hey, it's Christian. I guess he's back. That kind of a thing.
Oh, never won the title. Great.
Yeah, so we were talking about these ideas of these title changes, and it's going to be a running theme of tonight, but I don't understand why the Usos won the titles from the New Day either.
Well, I think the obvious answer is there's no other tag teams on SmackDown, so you need to keep swapping the belts between these two to actually have matches for the titles.
Oh, and God forbid, I don't want to see the New Day versus the Usos at the next pay-per-view. That'll be the 4th pay-per-view in a row.
Well, good luck, because you're gonna see it.
Probably.
And you're probably gonna see it inside Hell in a Cell.
Probably. This kind of stuff bugs me, because it's they say that they purposely like the brand split because it lets them, I forget their verbiage actually, but they said something about we don't have to rush our storylines. Well, there's a difference between rushing and dragging it out at a snail's pace.
Mm-hmm.
It's not everybody knows the first time somebody's fighting is usually the most interesting that you'll be able to have. The first time ever, we're going to see, The Undertaker against Roman Reigns, that kind of a thing. When you do something a second time, it's usually best when the first match was so good that people are I can't wait to see that again. Third time, it's usually best when you get in a situation where one guy won, now it's the rubber match, and maybe they have a little bit of a stipulation to it. The New Day versus Usos have had 3 matches at this point. None of them have had stipulations to them. And I like the New Day and I like the Usos. They're 2 of my favorite tag teams. Well, New Day is definitely my favorite. And I don't want to see them again, because it's gotten to the point where I've seen every kind of pairing up. So what new do you have to offer me, you know?
I mean, I do agree with that to an extent. I thought this match was still excellent.
Yeah. I will agree. That was one of the best matches of the night.
Yeah, and it's hard because you do want freshness and variety, and you want to see other tag teams get into the mix, because you can't just see the same 2 teams fighting each other. But then again, certain territories in the 70s and 80s just survived on 2 tag teams feuding with each other week in and week out. And this is like a rare instance, at least on my part, where I could probably see these two feuding for another couple of months just to like firmly secure which team is the dominant one out of the two, because they seem to be such on an even keel right now. But I am surprised that the New Day lost this match. The way they got to it, I thought that the finish of the match in particular was excellent, especially the lift up Samoa drop to the outside. I thought that was dangerous as hell, but it worked because these two teams are very safe with each other, it seems. But I just think that the reason why they're continuing is just because they just don't have anybody else to work with on SmackDown, which is an issue they have to fix soon. But
yeah, people need to start coming up, and people need to get switched around, and new tag teams need to be fixed up, and
yeah, it's a big issue at the moment. But if this is what has to happen in the meantime, like, I'm not going to like complain too much if I'm seeing 4-star matches every single like week between these two. Not every single week, but like every single month or pay-per-view between these two. Like, oh, it's another excellent match, even though I've seen it. I mean, people felt that way about like Charlotte and Sasha last year, and obviously that feud went on far too long. And I can obviously understand why people need to see something fresh or see new matchups, but as long as it's good, I'm not going to complain too much. If it was bad and they were still having these matches, then I'd be saying, right, we need to move on, like a Jinder Mahal and Randy Orton situation. Like, please, God damn it, move on. But at least this is better than that.
What bugs me is there's so much wrestling to watch, and even I try to watch as much as I can, but I still run into situations where I'm not watching stuff. Like, I never watch main event. But what bugs me about a feud like this is they had a great match tonight, but everything that's going to be leading up to the next match is going to be stuff that I'm going to feel like it's wasting my time. Like, if they just said to me, hey, we do want to have these guys feud, but like, our next match is going to be at Hell in a Cell. So that's October 22nd or something like that. And then I look at that and I go, okay, well, that's a month, 2 months away from now. I don't want to see 2 months of Xavier Woods versus Jimmy Uso on SmackDown. And then the next week it's Kofi Kingston versus Jey Uso on SmackDown. And then the week after that it's the Usos attack the New Day. And then the week after that it's Big E versus Jimmy Uso, and then it's Big E versus Jey Uso, and then I'm like, oh my god, I'm sick and fucking tired of the same thing. Like, and then when they do that for 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 months in a row, then I'm just sort of like, can we just throw another tag team in here to at least get something different? Even if you go back to having a good match, it's all the hours that lead up to that, and then the recaps of that makes me feel like you invested in weeks and weeks and weeks of worth of this feud, but it boils down to at least that they can have a good match.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
And then I'm like, just give me the match. Don't give me the other crap.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think that this has a danger lurking of making both of these teams stale when at the moment they're on an upward trajectory, but eventually they're just going to plateau. And they're going to have a match that wasn't as good as the last time they had a match, and then people are going to start to turn on it.
And another thing I'm going to say, since we're still just on the pre-show right now, and we're going to start getting into the other stuff, is on their own, a lot of the things I'm going to be complaining about from SummerSlam are things that are not the biggest deal in the world, but it's sort of like if you go to a restaurant and you order, say, like a cheeseburger and some fries and lemonade, and they give you like the bun on the burger is burnt and the burger itself is undercooked and they put ketchup on it and you didn't want it and the fries are terrible and you ordered a lemonade and they gave you a soda and the bill cost more than you thought that it did and it took forever to get your meal and the utensils that you had were dirty. And then it's like, at that point, you're like, oh my god, how many fucking things can go wrong here? Like, you give me, okay, the burger's slightly undercooked and everything else is great. I'm going to have a problem, but it's not going to be like, that's the worst restaurant ever kind of a thing. But at this point, it's most of the pre-show I wasn't liking. 6-man tag team match. That was a travesty. Then they get the Neville title change, and I go, oh, that's really kind of weird, but I like Neville as the champion, okay. And then we get the New Day losing the belts, and I'm like, all right, what the fuck are they doing here? And then it continued the whole rest of the night, and that's what drove me nuts, because we get Baron Corbin versus John Cena. Great to see that Baron Corbin went from possibly the Intercontinental Champion to, nah, not going to do that, but trust us, we have a plan for him. And then he loses his feud, essentially, with Sami Zayn. So it becomes, nah, it's not that he's losing to a guy half his size. It's, we have a plan. And it's the Money in the Bank. And you go, huh, okay, well, they actually gave him Money in the Bank. And then they go, well, since he's Money in the Bank, we can have him lose over and over and over again. And then they do the Shinsuke Nakamura thing, and then they're like, how about he just like attacks John Cena? And then they go, how about he loses the Money in the Bank? And then there's even people, I've seen it on the comments section on different things, and they've been saying, yeah, but trust us, it's all going to turn out. He's going to beat John Cena, and he's going to get a big push, and that's why. And then he loses to John Cena. And it's like, all right, so if you're Baron Corbin right now, you're going, you sure you have a fucking plan for me?
I think they do have a plan for him, but that's to push him as far down the card as possible, because...
It seems like it. God damn, I feel bad for the guy.
They had big plans for Baron Corbin, and they decided, yeah, it turns out we don't actually think you're that good anymore, so we're going to just send you rocketing down. God, I mean, losing to John Cena's never been a death knell for a lot of people. I mean, occasionally it is, but like he's still feuding with John Cena, so that can have positive outcomes, but the manner in which he lost this match was pretty embarrassing.
Cena kind of made it a point to say, like, you're not on my level throughout the entire match.
Yeah, he was making fun of him, and I was like, I tried to like point out to that thing. I'm thinking, oh, this could be quite a good story, but Cena's like taking Baron Corbin lightly. But the only way that story works or benefits anybody is if Baron Corbin wins, because otherwise it's a case of, oh, Cena said that you're worth nothing, and then he proved that you're worth nothing.
Yup. And then, if the rumors are true, John Cena's just gonna hightail it to Monday Night Raw tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, okay, so he fucks over Baron Corbin, laughs at him, then beats him, and then goes, yeah, you're not worth my time anymore. I'll see you later.
I know, it's terrible. And also along the sort of lines, wasn't like Baron Corbin saying in the build-up to the match that, oh, I don't care about winning or losing, I just want to hurt John Cena. And then he just stands in the ring opposite him rather than attacking him straight away. So that was like the issue that I was saying with NXT. Well, not the issue, but one of the good things I liked about NXT show was the fact that not all matches were starting with a collar and elbow tie-up or something along those lines. They were getting in each other's face straight away. And in this one, Corbin just does his usual thing, which is just stand there and mouth off. It just actually hurt him if you think that he cost you a chance at the WWE Championship. Why don't you just want to kill him immediately?
Right. And I don't see how this benefits anybody. John Cena is not somebody who needs the win, certainly over somebody like Baron Corbin. Mm-hmm. Baron Corbin's been losing so much lately that it's kind of like a win over John Cena could have helped that a little bit, but no. So if we have Baron Corbin feuding with anybody going forward, I'm going to look at it as like, oh, well, of course they're just going to beat Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin's not worth anything anymore. And John Cena against somebody, I'm not going to look at it as John Cena's going into this feud against, I don't know, so Samoa Joe. Yeah, he's going into that with this impressive win over Baron Corbin. And Baron Corbin was such a tough guy, but John Cena pulled it out. It's like, no, Baron Corbin got his ass kicked. And he did the previous 3 months ahead of time. So what do I care,
Yeah, exactly. He's currently on some sort of trajectory where he's probably going to be like the heavy for some upcoming superstar like Bobby Roode or something. If Bobby Roode goes to SmackDown, we'll have Baron Corbin as his bodyguard instead of actually being a star on his own right.
Yeah, you might as well throw him in a tag team or something if that's the only way that you can actually get him to like amount to something,
Yeah, the Lone Wolves.
Yeah, the Lone Wolves. That's like the Lone Rangers from Airheads. Always like that. Underrated movie. It was actually a pretty good movie. Not pretty good as in like, Oscar material, but it was like, it had some funny lines in that movie.
Well, said for this match, obviously. Although it is always quite fun to hear Baron Corbin like mouth off during the matches.
What'd you think of his new theme?
I didn't hate it. It was good.
I don't like it as much as his old one, but I don't dislike it. Like, it made him seem a little bit, at least until he lost his match, it made him seem like maybe he was going to get a little bit of a push, but I do sort of already miss the whole Baron Corbin kind of like thing that we would always make fun of.
I mean, I preferred the aesthetics of it more than the actual theme music.
Yeah, that was cool with all the lighting.
Yeah, the fire rising up, but obviously it doesn't amount to anything if you can't get a job done.
Yeah.
Also, that stupid... He's like... I kind of equate it to... He's the only big man that doesn't run into posts accidentally all the time. Because that's the kind of the usual big man transition is they run into some sort of post or turnbuckle when they're trying to charge into another superstar. And then he kept ducking under the ropes and going back. And he did that 3 times and thought, okay, this is getting a little much now.
Well, he studied a lot of tape and he realized that the turnbuckles are like kryptonite to the big men. Because every time that they do that spot, it's all like, oh my God, I'm in so much pain, even though I beat the shit out of the other guy for 20 minutes.
Yeah, he didn't realize that that's not John Cena's kryptonite.
Yeah.
Because obviously Superman had to come out and win the day here.
Then we had, after that, the SmackDown Women's Championship match, Naomi against Natalya, and I don't get why Natalya's the champion. It's another thing that I think she's boring as hell as a heel. I think Naomi's got a good thing going for her with this whole glow thing. It's like it's starting to kind of catch on, and then they get rid of it. No cash-in, which I would have been happier with if they would have been a cash-in. But they even purposely like went out of their way to kind of be like, now we're going to like fade to black now because we're not going to do that. Don't even worry about it. Carmella's not coming out. And I have no interest in seeing what Natalya does going forward. Her against Becky Lynch? I don't fucking care. Her against Charlotte? I really don't care. The only thing I'd be interested in would be if Asuka shows up and beats the shit out of her and wins the title. And at that point, then I'm thinking to myself, you just fucking did that the whole title change thing again, and we're back to Tozawa and Neville of somebody winning a belt just to drop it within a week. So it's like you give me the choice between, do you have a cash-in or do you have like Asuka win the title really quickly, and I would dislike it, or it stays on Natalya, and I have no interest in any of her feuds going forward. It's a personal preference. I know some people really, really like Natalya. I think she's really good in the ring, future Hall of Famer, but she has no character to me.
I pretty much agree with you in the sense that she's a terrible actress. She doesn't have a great deal of character. But I am happy about this title change because I haven't shied away from the fact that I'm not a big Naomi fan. I think that her character is annoying. I don't like her promo ability. I think she's very overrated in the ring. The glow stuff pisses me off constantly. It's just like, feel the glow. Like, what does that mean? What are you actually talking about? Like, why are people taking this? Not so much like why are people taking this seriously, but why are people getting some sort of excitement or inspiration about it? She's got a very good entrance and she's very athletic. That's basically what I see in Naomi.
And the show Glow was good.
Oh yeah, that was good. But unfortunately, I don't think she had too much of a role in that.
No, not at all.
But I'm happy that Natalya won. I think that there's something to be said about having a veteran who hasn't held the championship for years and years finally getting the run with it. They like to do this every now and again when they give title belts to like Kane or something along those lines of, oh, you had the title once, but it was only for a short amount of time and no one really remembers it, so we'll give you the title again after 7 or 8 years.
See, I'd argue at that point they should have given the title to Tamina because she's never had a chance.
Yeah, but Tamina sucks in every department, so you might as well have Natalya, who's at least good in the ring, sell things up. But I think that she could have an interesting feud with Becky Lynch or Charlotte. I think it's a good way of transitioning to one of them feuding for the title as opposed to Naomi, because I don't think, I mean, the only way Naomi could have gone into a feud with Tamina and Lana, which I guess would have made more logical sense, but it's not something that personally I want to see. I don't want to see Tamina and Lana fighting for the championships again. I would much rather see some good matches between Becky Lynch and Natalya, or Charlotte and Natalya, or even Naomi and Natalya again, because I thought the match itself was pretty good. It was pretty well put together. I think it was the best match that Naomi's had since she became champion. But I mean, don't get me wrong, it wasn't like anything special, and it definitely didn't live up to Asuka versus Ember Moon at TakeOver. But it was good for what it was. It definitely was steering SummerSlam in the right direction, I thought, at that point in time. And I think Natalya's worthy of a championship, even if she isn't the best character. I think it's fine to have a wrestler hold a wrestling championship, not a character.
Yeah, but I still hate her character.
Don't get me wrong, I completely agree with that her character is very, very stale, and she isn't good on the microphone or anything along those lines. And I'm not saying that her title reign is going to be a big success or last particularly long, but I think I wanted something different in this regards. And Naomi had a decent run with the title in terms of length, yeah. Obviously, I think that she deserved a bit better in terms of having actual matches for the title more often, especially on pay-per-view.
Yeah, there was like, 2 or 3 pay-per-views where she didn't defend the title, which is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, she didn't defend it on Backlash or Money in the Bank. No, she did defend it at Money in the Bank, but she didn't defend it at Battleground. And so she only had one defense against Charlotte, which was interrupted, and then 3 defenses against Lana, and then this match. So it's not a great run in those regards.
Well, again, this kind of harkens back to what I said earlier with, like, on paper, I don't like Natalya as champion over Naomi, and if you would have told me that that's the only thing I would have disagreed with on the show, I wouldn't have been like, SummerSlam's terrible, but since I have no interest in seeing Natalya as champion, it makes me not excited when a title changes hands like that, because then it makes me go, oh, fuck. At the very least, I know that Hell in a Cell comes out in, like, mid to late October. At the very least, I've got 8 weeks or so that I'm going to have to watch somebody as the champion at the focal point of SmackDown every single week that I have no real interest in watching. It's kind of like saying you killed off my favorite character on that TV show, and now I'm going to have to watch the rest of it without that person on there. Or when you watch like a reality TV show, like I watch Big Brother, of course, and we know that from the mailbags and stuff, that when I got somebody that I'm rooting for and they get knocked out and there's a house full of 5 people left and I don't like any of them, I tend to stop watching the show because it's like, well, I don't want to watch the 5 people that I don't like because I don't find them entertaining. And then with Natalya, it's like, oh my God, a title change and crap, TV's going to be bad for the next couple of weeks. Like, you know.
Well, I'm kind of like in the opposite. I'm kind of in the idea that,
if you don't like Naomi, then it's going to be an upgrade.
Yeah, it was like this one character in the TV show that was really dragging it down and pissing me off, like Scrappy-Doo joined Scooby-Doo, and you just put a bullet in their head, and then, it's going to be better again.
Man, if I had it my way, they'd put a bullet in everybody's head on that show. I hate Scooby-Doo.
That's fine. I mean, if you put a bullet through Shaggy's head, you probably wouldn't feel it anyway.
Yeah.
So
probably try to figure out a way to make that into a bong.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the really good-looking one that Sarah Michelle Gellar played?
Daphne. Yeah, Daphne.
She could stay. She's fine. Well, then they had Linda Cardellini, which is like, you're gonna play the ugly one. You're Linda Cardellini. You can't be ugly, you know.
Yeah, so we'll put you in a cat suit in the sequel.
Let's see. Another thing that happened. We're going in order here, but another thing that I can kind of complain about a little bit is the Big Cass versus Big Show.
Oh
match.
God, yep. This is the one. This is the one where I can start getting a little bit more ranty.
Okay, I'll toss it to you then. You can start off the rants.
Okay, this match absolutely sucked balls. In the highest regards. This was slow, it was sloppy, the crowd were completely not interested. Enzo Amore's promo at the start went on far too long and got nobody excited.
Lord, it did. I tuned him out. I don't have a clue what he said after a while.
No, he basically just spouted off a load of Brooklyn and New York references to absolutely zero reaction. I mean, some people in the crowd were still chanting, "Oh, Enzo Amore." I'm just thinking, what are you seeing in this guy anymore? He gets beaten up every single week in more and more embarrassing fashions, and his promos are getting less and less impactful week after week, and yet you're still trying to support him. I guess he just has it's more of like a Stockholm syndrome thing now, as opposed to actually appreciating what he's doing. And then you just have the match itself, which I wasn't expecting big things from either of these two, which is surprising because they're both big people. But yeah, it was so slow and badly put together. Like Cass, supposedly you're meant to be like impressed that Cass kicked out the knockout punch and a choke slam, but nobody cared about it.
Knockout punch.
Yeah, his hand was injured, so it wasn't a full knockout punch, and he was using his left hand for the choke slam, so that wasn't. So there's some reasons why he kicked out of both of those. And it's not like Cass looked particularly impressive, and when he was on offense, it was just so lethargic, and nobody gave a fuck at all. And then the sequence at the end with Enzo like lathering himself up with baby oil and stripping down to his underpants to get out of the cage and then just get a big boot was just hilarious. But you shouldn't find this stuff funny. He's supposed to be like not a hero, but like a babyface that you can root for, like an underdog babyface, and he just like got laid out immediately. That's a James Ellsworth type character. That's not someone that you want to get behind. It was
I didn't like the whole lathering up in baby oil thing, but I did like that as soon as he came down, he got a fucking boot to the face. That was funny.
I like it in the sense that I think Enzo should be either on the cruiserweights or not around anymore, which I feel really bad about saying because he used to be such a big deal and he used to be such a charismatic force, but he's become such what we've reported to be believed, such a nuisance behind the scenes, and he's not really worth that much effort that I'm pretty much fine with him not being in WWE anymore.
Sadly, I kind of agree a little bit. I don't hate Enzo or anything like that, but
well, everyone else seems to.
They seem to be kind of booking him to make him annoying a little bit. And
it seems like a burial to me.
Where I do want him to be in 205 Live. I think that's the best course of action. Or maybe ship him down to NXT or something, but I wouldn't be super upset if they fired him.
No, I'm along those lines. I don't want to see anyone lose their jobs or anything along those lines, but he just needs to get as far away from this scenario as possible. I thought that the biggest thing I was potentially looking forward to in this match was Enzo Amore turning heel and re-siding with Cass and then trying to revitalise the team a little bit. But the way they just went about it was so, like, I wouldn't say it was predictable, but it was so not what anyone would have wanted to see. And that's the way they decided to do it anyway. And the finish was, again, along the theme. It was really slow. There were boring chants, CM Punk chants.
Mm-hmm. And once you start getting the crowd doing that, you know that you're not doing a good job.
No, and I think they could tell that. I mean, they probably went in with the mindset of, yeah, people aren't going to enjoy this match, which is never the good thing way of approaching it. But they never seemed like they were like really, all right, we've got to step up to a higher gear here to get the crowd excited. They were just like carrying on the same pace, if you can even call it pace, this plodding along until you get to the finish, and yeah, Cass wins, which everyone saw coming.
And it doesn't mean much anyway, too. It's kind of like Big Show said that he would be retiring at WrestleMania next year. I don't know if that's going to be true or not, but at least that's what he's indicated. So he doesn't have much left with him.
No.
If he's going to be used sparingly like he is, I'd like to see him go out with a bang. And Cass has lost a lot of favor in me recently. Like, I looked at when Cass and Enzo were on NXT. I'll put it this way. I started watching NXT where I was paying actual attention to it when Enzo was injured at the time. It was when Cass was on his own and Enzo was like a shoulder injury or something, I think. It was like right around the time that they started sort of introducing Carmella as like their hairdresser and stuff, and they were feuding with Sylvester LaFour and Marcus Louis? Was that his name?
Marcus Louis.
Yeah, those two, I'm glad that they were gone. I thought that they sucked. But at the time, I was thinking to myself, this Cass guy looks like he has a bright future ahead of him. He could be like another Undertaker type, where he's like the big man that's around for a long time because he's young and he's big and he seems pretty decent on the mic and he seems like he's got some some upside to him. And it got to a point where I was thinking to myself, like, damn, Big Cass could end up winning the world title. Now I'm looking at him and I'm like, oh, he never improved past a certain point.
Well,
And I'm starting to lose a lot of faith that he's going to actually amount to something.
WWE did what WWE tends to do, which is they had something that could have been stretched out for 2-3 years of Enzo and Cass being in the tag team ranks, building themselves up, being this underdog team that doesn't quite win the championships for a long time and then eventually has the feel-good moment of winning it. Then they lose it, and then you start building dissension and a slow turn for Cass, and then they rushed it in 6 months and utterly destroyed both teammates. This is what they do. They split tag teams up and then none of them amount to anything.
Right. It's
Even
like
the one
they care more about the fact that they've gotten the ability to split them up as opposed to why they're splitting them up and if it's the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it might not be the right thing to have kept Enzo and Cass together, but on their own, Enzo is seemingly almost out the door. Big Cass is struggling. Big Show's just sort of losing to Big Cass, and it's not really going to amount to much because I don't think anybody's looking at this match afterward and saying Big Cass is like, man, he's going to be that new number one contender. Can't wait to see that Big Cass versus Brock Lesnar match. You know? It would have been worse if he would have lost to Big Show.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really do too much for him as it is. So it ends up being a wash. And the biggest highlight of the whole thing to me is Enzo goes through all that trouble and he gets kicked in the face. So,
that was one of the lowest points for me of the entire night.
Well, then we have to go to something that's even worse.
Yeah, 100%.
Randy Orton and Rusev. If you heard our predictions and stuff, I had talked about this. You had talked about this. The worst build out of every match that was on this card.
Yeah. It was,
and lo and behold, it has the worst match out of the whole night too. It's a fucking squash.
I don't know what has Rusev done to. I mean, with the John Cena thing, you can understand it was a flag match. He at least got a good bit of offense in. Him and Cena worked a fairly good match, and then he loses, but it's not great. But you can understand it. This is just baffling to me. Like, this guy was once a point in time when you think, oh, this guy could be a world champion one day, or like at least a really strong mid-card champion for months and months on end. And now he's being beaten 6 seconds on SummerSlam with one RKO.
And was it Orton Lesnar last year for SummerSlam?
Yeah, I guess this was his kind of recompense or something along those lines, or probably his reward for losing to Jinder Mahal on 3 pay-per-views is, oh yeah, you can just have an easy night, you get the win, and you only need to hit one move.
And wasn't last year also when Roman Reigns beat the shit out of Rusev and they didn't even have their match?
Yeah.
So this basically turns into, let's have a squash with Rusev, let's have a squash with Orton, and then next year we'll have a squash with Orton and Rusev. This was fucking stupid. And by this point of the night, you got to figure, I'm sitting there with my buddies. We're all having fun. We're all like, hey, let's order some pizza and stuff like that. And I've witnessed a ridiculous no crowd type of 6-man tag where, in my mind, the wrong team won. Not the end of the world, but okay. And then you get a title change that makes no sense to me, a title change that makes no sense to me, and then Corbin loses, and then Natalya wins, and then Big Cass beats Big Show, and that sucks. And then they do this fucking squash, and I'm like, the pay-per-view is halfway over, and it's been garbage to me. And I'm like, well, at this point, fucking just throw in the towel and don't do the rest of it. Like,
yeah, at this point, I was ready to say, okay, I'm almost about to switch it off because, like, obviously I was still watching it because of the coverage and along those lines, because I was still going to watch it. But if I didn't have any of those obligations, I would have been inclined to switch it off that point. Think, okay, this is already it's never going to exceed Takeover now. You dug this straight into the ground. It's not along the lines of, like, not that I didn't agree with all the matches or I thought the matches were bad in particular, but this one in particular, just like, who does this benefit in any way, shape, or form? Does Randy Orton now get another title shot because he won a match so convincingly, so he's going back against Jinder Mahal for the WWE Championship or something along those lines? Or like, what does Rusev do after this?
It's the only thing that can make any sense to me, and this is something that makes any sense at all for the most part anyway, is that Orton goes over to Raw.
Yeah, that's probably the only way to kind of salvage this sort of situation. I mean, they killed Corbin and Rusev in one night. They killed two of their top mid-card heels in one night to Cena and Orton. And I know I don't like fully subscribe to the philosophy of the younger guys should always go over on the aging veteran, but
the older guys have to win enough to be able to be people that it's interesting when you see them lose.
Yeah, but in this situation, I mean, I didn't even think that Orton had to lose to Rusev in this match, but at least have a match. Like, it goes like 6-7 minutes and Orton wins with the RKO. It's like, it's still not great, but it's fine at least. At least you got to see Rusev get some offense in and do his thing. But this is embarrassing. Like, it erodes any credibility that he's had to been able to build up. Since he's come back to SmackDown after being moved in the shake-up after WrestleMania, what has he done? He's come back. He was looking for a championship match at Money in the Bank. He didn't get one, and people just forgot about it. Well, WWE forgot about it. Other people do still remember. And then he got into a feud with John Cena and lost quite convincingly, and then got into a nothing feud with Randy Orton because neither of them were on the card, and then lost in 6 seconds. I mean, is there any superstar that's on a lower point now than Rusev on the totem pole?
At least nobody that's that high up that it shouldn't be as much of a problem.
Exactly.
And I'd even argue, like, if they're doing something like this, again, it's hindsight's all over the place. It could be something where you can argue that, like, oh, of course you're going to say that now because you're not the one that's booking it and stuff. And it's like, no, I would have said this beforehand anyway. Why not conserve your writing power? Because it doesn't seem like they want to work all that much. Like, that seems to be a problem that is going on. Maybe I'm just reading things wrong, but it seems like the writing team in WWE are being lazy, and that they've been lazy for the majority of 2017. So if that's the case, okay, let's try to figure out a way where you don't have to do as much work. How about Rusev and John Cena are in a legitimate feud at Battleground, and they have some kind of a rematch at SummerSlam, and Randy Orton, the guy who's in the WWE title picture, has some kind of a bump with Baron Corbin, who is trying to cash in, and Randy Orton stops him from cashing in because he's like, no, that's my fucking title. I'm the one who's been fighting Jinder Mahal. You can't cash in and steal it from me, you jerk. And then you do Randy Orton versus Baron Corbin and John Cena versus Rusev.
Yeah.
And then maybe Baron Corbin stands a chance, and maybe Rusev stands a chance, and whatever. And you still get a new feud with Baron Corbin and Randy Orton. That hasn't happened yet. So it's not like you needed John Cena versus Baron Corbin. If John Cena's like requested to work with Baron Corbin, then you mean to tell me that he requested to work with him to squash him and to make him seem like a jackass and then leave? Fuck you. Don't give you that. Like, that's like, counterproductive more than anything. And it's so strange to me. It's like this squash is whether they thought like, well, shit, we're running out of time. We need to make one of these a real quick match. Then you didn't think ahead of time of how quick you'd want certain matches to be, and you didn't time things out correctly. And if you thought that this is a good enough feud, you're out of touch. You know? Mm-hmm. The build-up was not good. The match itself, of course, wasn't good because it was a squash. Rusev looks like crap, and Randy Orton doesn't really look all that much better. This isn't going to, like, undo the fact that he lost the WWE title. It's just Rusev he beat.
Yeah. It just doesn't work on any level whatsoever. And I don't know, I know certain people, when you have matches and results that you didn't quite like, people can just say, oh, you just have to wait and see what they do with it. I just don't think of what sort of scenario can they portray where Rusev can be built up off the back of this.
Plus, at a certain point, when people keep doing the whole you have to wait and see, how long do you have to wait and see? Because we had people that were like, you have to wait and see. Daniel Bryan's definitely going to be in the main event. Don't worry about it. And it worked at WrestleMania 30
Mm-hmm.
after a lot of bitching and complaining and stuff. I highly doubt that was their plan.
No, it wasn't. You can tell it wasn't.
People that were saying that with WrestleMania that followed it, it was like Daniel Bryan gets screwed out of the Royal Rumble. A lot of people are mad. Roman Reigns wins. I, at the time, was happy that Roman Reigns won because I wanted him to just beat Brock Lesnar and for it to be the end of it. Funny how you try to repeat that a couple years later and it's the total opposite because it's already fucking been done. But at the time, a lot of people bitching and complaining, and then some other people going, yeah, but you just gotta see. Don't worry about it. They're going to do something with Daniel Bryan. Nah, he's going to retire.
Mm-hmm.
And I guarantee that the plan was not that he was going to lose that Royal Rumble match, and that was the year he won the Intercontinental title. And it was like, so that was their big plan was, we don't want to put him in the world title, we want to put him in the Intercontinental because that's going to appease the fans good enough. And if now you're looking back and you go, yeah, they kind of dropped the ball. Yeah, we waited and we saw that they dropped the ball. So I'm not looking at this Rusev thing as like, can't wait to see where this is going to twist and turn. I'm like, no, they just wanted Rusev to lose, and maybe he pissed somebody off. I don't know.
And I'm starting to feel that way with a lot of superstars on the card. Like, it's almost like, you can tell who's going to win and lose matches based on how Vince McMahon is feeling about them that particular week.
Which, that's kind of confusing about the next thing, because we've got Alexa Bliss against Sasha Banks for the Raw Women's Championship, and right now we're in a weird transition for that, because we know that they love Bayley, and a lot of people love Bayley, but a lot of people have been booing the hell out of Bayley lately.
She has been getting some seriously negative reactions. I think when we discussed this in the predictions, I can understand it to an extent because she's been booked so poorly that she comes across as a bit of a loser now, and certain people don't want to get behind that. But I also think it's a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon, and the usual thing of, we're trying to put this person as a mega babyface, so we're cool, and so we're going to boo them and cheer the heels instead.
Right.
And that's a typical thing that you get across all WWE's things. But the hatred that certain people seem to have for Bayley, or at least the way that they're booing her, is quite visceral. It's something that is going to follow her for quite a while, I think, at the moment.
And it kind of just came out of nowhere. She really didn't get this kind of reaction until she got injured.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe people just didn't want to see her fight Alexa Bliss again, or maybe people were thinking that she's getting preferential treatment almost, that she's been booked in these title matches when other people, certain people feel more deserving, like maybe a Mickie James or an Emma, is constantly missing out on championship opportunities. I mean, I can't explain what their reasons are, because I personally wouldn't boo Bayley. I wouldn't cheer her either. I'm kind of in a not really caring sense of Bayley at the moment. Like, she hasn't done anything to really impress me that much. I don't think she's improved too much since NXT, and she's not really doing it for me in any of the storylines or feuds or anything along those lines. But I wouldn't be booing her because of that. And there was also, obviously, during the match itself between Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks, Alexa Bliss was the one who was the crowd favourite in this match.
Yeah, by a long shot.
I mean, it was kind of odd, though, because I think a lot of people were still coming down from those last two matches. A lot of people were probably sharing what your and I's view was at that time of, oh, fuck this show. This show's going to really suck at this point, and they kind of had the wind taken out of them.
Yeah. So
it kind of felt like neither of Sasha Banks or Alexa Bliss were getting cheered. It was like Sasha Banks was getting booed, and they weren't really reacting for Alexa Bliss at all.
It seemed to me, I mean, I don't know for sure, but it seemed to me like people were kind of like, yeah, Alexa Bliss, like, we like her work rate and stuff, and Sasha Banks is like, yeah, we like Sasha Banks still, and that kind of a thing. But I do think this was a better match than the other women's match, and as much as I prefer Alexa Bliss holding the title, I'm not upset about the idea of Sasha Banks winning it.
No.
But it's very, I kind of have to reserve a little bit of my optimism, because if I'm going to put aside some of my pessimism for certain things and go, maybe there's a plan, maybe putting that belt on Akira Tozawa, we're going to look back in 5 months and go, yeah, you know what? Well, at least he was a champion and Neville works out better and Tozawa took that momentum and he did whatever. I highly doubt it, but maybe. You never know. And I look at this with Sasha Banks and I go, yeah, you know what? I probably would have gone with Sasha Banks winning the title. Now, if you checked my fantasy booking, you know I would have had Bayley winning the title here and not feuding with her ahead of time and blah, 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 blah. But maybe this turns into something kind of interesting where Sasha Banks isn't the one that turns heel. Maybe it's Bayley. And you put the title on Sasha, and this turns into a Bayley heel turn, and those two feud. I could be kind of down with that. But until something happens to prove to me that it's a good idea, I have to reserve at least a little bit of judgment that maybe Alexa Bliss still would have been a better choice, you know?
Yeah, I would have been okay with either of the women winning this match. I think you could go forward with either one of them and create some new feuds, but I think logically Sasha Banks makes the most sense because you could do the thing with Bayley turning heel or Sasha turning heel and going forward with that. You have Nia Jax waiting in the wings. You have, even though seeing Sasha Banks and Nia Jax in another match is a bit torturous right now, but at least it's an idea they can go with. They can go with Emma. They can go with if Peyton Royce and Billie Kay moved up to the main roster. Obviously, Alexa Bliss will have a rematch as well. So there are some new things that you can do with Banks as the champion that you couldn't do with Bliss. The match itself, I think, was good. It was better than the SmackDown one, but not by much. But they were both, at this point, they were both the two best matches on the main card, at least in my opinion. And but I think
I probably agree with that. Yeah,
the finish kind of came out of nowhere. Like they were kind of just exchanging holds, and they were doing the thing where Bliss had injured the shoulder of Banks, so she couldn't get the bank statement locked in, and then she just got it locked in out of nowhere, and Bliss tapped almost immediately. So I just like, oh, where did that come from? That was a little bit shocking. I kind of like a finish that builds up a little bit more, but I think that was more due to the fact that the crowd wasn't that into it at that point, and so they were almost as shocked as when Bliss tapped out as I was.
Yeah, because if the crowd's not into it, then it seems like nothing builds up anyway, you know?
Yeah.
But I do think that it was a pretty decent match. I think that this isn't going to be one of those things that I complain about as much as some of the other things, and I do still have more things to complain about.
I think the crowd was a general problem throughout the night, and I can't entirely blame them because some of the stuff they were being forced to sit through wasn't that great, so I can understand why the wind was taken out of their sails. But
yeah,
I mean, it's the same arena that NXT was being held in, and I'm sure there was quite a lot of fans that were on both shows, and yet in NXT it was so rabid and everyone was so invested in every single match, and in this show people were just sitting on their hands a lot of the time. It felt like it's.
And I think it's not so much the crowd's fault.
I think it goes both ways. I think certain people were, after the NXT show, were kind of expecting SummerSlam to do worse, and were almost like, I don't know, psychologically channeling that by just deciding, oh, this show's going to be worse, so I'm not going to put as much effort into trying to make the matches as good.
Yeah,
or maybe they just wore themselves out because the last night was so good. But I do agree that the show up to this point wasn't good enough to merit enough of an exuberance from the crowd.
And we'll see, within 2 matches after this, they've gotten to a point where they're starting to distract themselves.
Yeah.
But the next match was Finn Balor against Bray Wyatt, and first things first, man, putting on that face paint really changes things, doesn't it? I mean, it was like wrestling, Bray Wyatt against fucking fake Undertaker or something.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, so different from Finn Balor.
Yep.
So stupid.
I'm
glad he had the face paint, but he couldn't even change it up, really.
The entrance was good, though. I did enjoy the entrance. I mean, I know it's just an aesthetic thing more than anything else.
Times by now, it's like I could just go on YouTube and watch it again. Like, It's lost its luster for me.
Well, I still have my biggest issue, and it will still hold with the demon character, is that it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
it's a marketing tool for the big shows. Like, oh, you've got to turn into SummerSlam or WrestleMania because that's the only time you're going to get to see the Demon perform. Yeah, but if you're not in a feud that I actually care about, then why are you bringing out the Demon? You're just bringing him out because it's a big show.
Plus, it's kind of like saying you're going to have to worry a lot more this week because coming up at the next pay-per-view, John Cena is going to have a different colored shirt on. And it's like, yeah, he's still just going to take it off and then wrestle. And it's the normal thing.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't change his in-ring style. He doesn't only do a certain finisher if he's the Demon thing. It's not like when he's the Demon character, he wrestles quicker than he does, or like nothing like that. It's just he happens to have face paint on while he's doing the entrance. If you switch to face paint with a leather jacket that he opens up, it's the same exact thing.
Yeah.
So I don't have any complaints really about this match, but it's exactly what I expected it to be. It was, he's the Demon Balor, so he wins, and he wins because he lost before the end.
Yeah, it was a good match. It was nothing great, nothing terrible, but it was better than their match on Raw, but nothing really beyond that. It was something that you'll
pretty easily forgettable, I think.
Yeah, it's not something that you'll go back and like seek out when you're just like it's been on the network for a couple of years. It won't be something that you click in the back of your mind thinking, oh yeah, that Finn Balor Bray Wyatt match was pretty good. It will just be something that is lost into the ether. You'll forget about it like by the time Raw kicks off tomorrow night.
Unless they can't possibly have you forget about it because they go with like, well, it'll be a third match now between Balor and Bray Wyatt or whatever.
Yeah, but
he'll wear the fucking leather jacket
and lose. I mean, he has
Probably.
to lose if he's wearing the leather jacket.
Or even worse, it'll be the two of them fight, and then there'll be some kind of a DQ ending or something.
Mm-hmm. And then you move on to another feud between them. They'll have Bobby Roode turn up and attack Finn Balor or something along those lines.
Man, I need him to go to SmackDown at this point. So bad.
I just want him to go to it. To be honest, I don't know if I even want him to go to either show because, like,
he's better off in NXT.
Yeah, exactly. I'm moving on to point like maybe certain superstars should be moving to NXT instead of the other way around. Like, yeah, let's have everyone just go to NXT because then they'll be put into cars that we actually enjoy.
Maybe at that point.
I mean, that's what I wanted to see with like Dolph Ziggler or something along those lines. Just superstars that have gone so stale, it's beyond repair on the main roster, and just put them onto NXT instead.
As a Dolph Ziggler fan, I'd be cool with it.
Yeah. It'd be a reason for certain people to tune into NXT.
I would like to see like Ziggler against Roderick Strong, or like well, not against him, against Rude, because Rude will be coming up, but
yeah, and then if you point to that, if he fails there, then you have all the reason in the world to get rid of him after that point. so it's like sink or swim, but in a completely opposite direction.
Well, at that point in the night, we've got 4 matches left, and I've reserved myself to saying it's a guarantee that they can't, even if all 4 matches are fantastic, they can't outweigh it to the where I would think it would be an amazing card.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at best, the next 4 segments could be so great that it bumps it up to say that, like, 3/4 of it is great, or half of it's great and the other half sucks, that kind of a thing. One thing that I'm going to mention now, because we just didn't get it at all, nothing regarding Goldust.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised either, but that's another thing that kind of annoys me, because it's like, well, don't put it out there if you're not going to do anything about it.
No. Well,
that goes to show you either have no plan and you had to pull it, or you had to pull it because you didn't budget your time, or you decided not to do it because your idea was bad. So all 3 of them are bad.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, on the same vein, I'm surprised that we didn't see anybody from NXT debut on SummerSlam.
I'm a little bit surprised, but I'm also not, because I figured they'll save that for Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah, but it might have been something to liven up and give a bit of unpredictability to it, especially after the fact that there were quite a few like run-ins from the crowd of like Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole in NXT. It might have just been good to just see one. I don't know who.
We did get one interference from the crowd, and that was the beach ball.
Yeah, we'll move on to this match now.
That is legitimately one of my 3 favorite things in the entire night. I absolutely loved that that Cesaro went out into the crowd, grabbed that beach ball, ripped it in half, and was just kind of like, fuck you, pay attention to our match. I loved it. I wrote that down in my list as one of my favorite moments of the year.
Yeah,
literally.
that is a big deal. That is Cesaro cementing himself in, this guy actually, like, he did something that not a lot of other wrestlers would be too scared to do. He just went out and did it, and he made a name for himself for it. And you could hear like the reaction and the response that he got on like social media and among people in Megamaniacs, stuff like that. It was just thumbs up all around. This is what Cesaro can do. He does have more character than a lot of people behind the scenes think that he does.
Yeah, that was my favorite part of the whole thing. But there was also I liked the match.
Yep.
And I liked that we have new tag team champions. Ambrose and Rollins defeat Cesaro and Sheamus. And I'm cool with that.
This was a title change that made sense.
The only one I think of the entire night that made sense.
I mean, there's an argument for that.
Well, maybe Sasha Banks. Although that wasn't their plan going forward because they gave the title shot to Bayley. But
yeah.
But I think if you're going to say one title change is far above the rest is something that was set up ahead of time properly and something going forward that I'm actually kind of positive about, it's Ambrose and Rollins.
Yeah.
I'd like to see who they feud with next. And we've got a lot of potential of like them against, say, the Hardy Boys, or them against the Revival, or them against Gallows and Anderson. Like, I'm actually like, oh, cool, we get to see new feuds here. That's big old thumbs up, you know?
Yeah, it's always good to see it built up nicely. It was a very nicely built story. The match itself was very good, as I expected it to be, with these two teams involved. Sheamus and Cesaro definitely pulled their weight. I think the closing sequence in particular of this match was fantastic, of Rollins getting up when they were about to perform their finisher, and Braun's hit a Frankensteiner, which threw Cesaro right into Sheamus, and then they just started hitting all of their finishing moves onto both of them. So I thought that was very well put together. And yeah, this tag team has legs going forward. They definitely have a lot of people they can feud with. They can almost start feuding with each other because they're still at the point with, yeah, we're back together, but there's still probably uneasiness between the two of them. So that can be played upon and see whether they're actually still as strong a unit as they think they are. So there's a lot of storyline potential here. So I'm very happy with this result.
Yeah, this is one of the few things I was just kind of like, oh, thank God, I have something to say that positive about this night. Because, I mean, I'm writing up that highlights and low points thing on Bleacher Report, and I'm sitting there going, low point, low point, low point, low point, low point. I'm like, fuck, I can't have it be only low points. And it's another highlight after that, following suit, the United States Championship match between AJ Styles and Kevin Owens. I thought that was another really, really good match. Good story being told. The right person won. I want to kind of see what's happening in the future with Shane McMahon and Kevin Owens. And I'm like interested to see who AJ Styles can move on from. It's sort of like the complete opposite of the SmackDown women's title match, where now it's like, oh God, Natalya versus anybody is something I don't want to see. AJ Styles is like, oh man, I could see AJ Styles versus Bobby Roode. I could see AJ Styles versus Chad Gable, maybe Rusev, maybe Baron Corbin. And it's like, I'm kind of interested in seeing a lot of variety here. So I like the match. I like the outcome. I like how they told it, and I like the build up for it. Just why not have more of these? Damn it, you know?
Yeah, I will admit to the fact that I'd only gotten like a few hours of sleep the night before because I was woken up in the morning by my dogs like being loud, and so this was the match where I kind of lost a little bit of will, just due to the fact that I'd been up for so long. Not due to the quality of the match itself, and so I kind of missed half of it because I was just laying down, going in and out of sleep, and woke up towards the finish because I started seeing like Shane McMahon being beaten from pillar to post by both superstars. It's always nice to see. I think some people probably get annoyed about the fact that he's like an ineffective referee, or a referee that was proving more of a nuisance than a actual like doing his job properly. But I think it worked well. I think he fit in. I think his rolling story actually enhanced the feud between Owens and Styles. I think this was their best match from what I saw that they've had so far. I think it's a good way of ending the feud and moving on to Owens and Shane McMahon into the future, which I think could be a very good match. And like you say, Styles has a lot of people to choose from to feud over the United States Championship with. I'm hoping that he holds the title for quite a while, though, because obviously it's been passed around so many people in the last few months, especially since WrestleMania, that it would be good to have a run with about 6 months with the title before we decide on, okay, who's the guy that we're going to have take the United States Championship. Which is why I don't want it to be Rude straight away, because Rude would have to win it probably to cement himself straight away. And I just don't want it
with a different feud in the meantime and then Rude going later on.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that's fine. I'd be fine with him like having a match with Chad Gable on pay-per-view 1 month, and then maybe Rusev, and then around about Royal Rumble time taking the title and putting it onto Rude. I think that makes sense. And the match was good. It's building things up. So this was another, like, similar to the Raw Tag Team title match. It was built up well. The match itself was good, and it's left a lot of positive opportunities going forward.
Yeah, I have nothing but positive stuff to say about this, but I'm confused about the next match.
Yeah, this I was kind of along the lines at this point of thinking, oh, SummerSlam's turned the corner. It had a really rough patch around about the second hour.
The first 3 hours.
Yeah.
The first 5 hours.
Yeah, but it was going through a rough patch, but it started to, like, had a few decent matches, and then there's 2 really good matches, and they both went the way that I wanted to, and they left a lot of things open. And then this happened, and then I was like, oh, we can't have all the nice things. You couldn't have just done this one thing.
Mm-hmm. I'm really, like, I don't understand it. The Jinder Mahal Shinsuke Nakamura match is what we're talking about here for the WWE Championship, where Jinder Mahal retains, which that doesn't annoy me.
No, that doesn't.
I don't buy into the idea that Nakamura should be champion right now. But I also have said before, I don't think that Jinder Mahal should. But you already put the belt on Jinder Mahal. He's already held it for 91 days, he said, I think.
Mm-hmm. So
you already did the damage. You don't need to throw Nakamura in there just for, to give it a couple of smarks happy. And if Nakamura would have won, it wouldn't have been the end of the world. It wouldn't have been like James Ellsworth beating Hulk Hogan or in the middle of 1989 or something like that, But the whole thing was awkward to me.
Yeah.
Especially that ending where he's botching the Colossus.
Yeah, I know, that was terrible. So it was weird because I thought the start of it with Nakamura coming in with the entrance, like the crowd woke up really, like, bigger than they had done almost since the start of the night. They were really into it, and I know it's like a lot of people saying it's Smarks, but he does have his entrance, his aura, the charisma he shows. It is befitting someone who could be a WWE champion. But Mahal, actually, to his credit, and I know I've never been his biggest fan, and I still don't believe that he should be, especially with the array of talent that SmackDown has, he shouldn't be WWE champion among those people. But he did come off as a champion with his entrance. He did look good. He looked like he'd taken his supplements before the match started, so that was a good benefit to him. And I thought the match was going okay. It wasn't great by any stretch of the imagination. But then you hit this, like, the 10-minute mark, and then you start thinking, all right, so it's going to go into, like, a second act now. And then it starts building towards a finish, and this match hasn't gone very long at all, and this is meant to be the W Championship match. I was hoping for a little bit more. Then the Singh brothers get involved again, and he takes both of them out with Kinshasa, and then gets hit with this really botched finisher. Just one finisher, and he gets pinned. And that's Shinsuke Nakamura's first loss on the main roster. It was, like, utterly bewildering to me. Like I said, I don't mind the fact that Nakamura lost. Obviously, I'd prefer him to be champion, but it's not the end of the world if he wasn't. But the way they did it, it's almost like I wouldn't say a deliberate attempt to kill Nakamura's momentum, but I don't see why you couldn't have had a different finish to it. It was basically a rehash of when Jinder Mahal won the title from Randy Orton in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
It's rinse and repeat. It's the Singh brothers get involved. They get hit with both the opponent's finishes, and then Mahal hits his one move and wins the title.
The way that I kind of look at this is they didn't have any feud built up to this.
No.
And I don't know if their philosophy was, we trust that these two are going to have such a killer match that we have to do this. But I look at that being the WWE Championship match, and then I look at the Fatal 4-Way on Raw, and there's no comparison. Raw is a million times better as far as star power goes.
This was like...
SmackDown has star power.
Yeah.
And it's like they deliberately chose to go with people that are on like that mid-card kind of level, that upper mid-card kind of level, whatever you want to kind of classify them as, and give them the WWE title almost like out of protest, I guess. And maybe there's a philosophy behind it where, like, if I look at like fantasy booking cards that a lot of people put up on like message boards and stuff, very rarely do I ever think any of it's logical. And I'll see these kind of feuds where people will be like, say, okay, well, for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam 2017, it's going to be the WWE Champion who is, say, Samoa Joe is going up against Rob Van Dam, and it's like, wait, what? You're adding Rob Van Dam in there and all that, and it turns out that you're doing that because you just really, really like Rob Van Dam. Okay, sure, fine. Like, that's never gonna happen and stuff. And then you'll see people and they'll book like, for the Intercontinental title is gonna be maybe The Miz, where it's like, okay, I can understand that, but they're gonna be fighting Kurt Hawkins, and it's like, that's not gonna happen either. And I look at this as Jinder Mahal and Shinsuke Nakamura as like somebody looking at the card and saying, Jinder Mahal is the champion. Who would I want him to fight? Well, I like Nakamura. How about he fights Nakamura? And not wanting to actually formulate a feud around it and not actually wanting it to go anywhere. And I don't want to see these two have another match again.
No. Not really. I mean, I see it as the opposite. I see it as, Nakamura's kind of a worthy champion and he gets a really strong reaction, but he can only be the challenger right now. Who do we have as a champion? Well, let's just pluck Jinder Mahal out of nowhere and make him the WWE champion. So I fundamentally agree with the fact that out of these two, Nakamura makes most sense for me to be WWE champion. That being said, I don't think either of them should be anywhere near the WWE championship picture right now. I think Nakamura's too soon. Mahal should never have been in it in the first place. And it should be, like we said, it should be AJ Styles and Kevin Owens fighting for the WWE Championship and have these two fight for the United States Championship. Makes so much more sense. And just having a rehash of the matches that he was having with Orton, it does, like Nakamura, I'm not saying Nakamura deserves everything and he's such a huge star that we have to protect him at every single turn, but he at least deserved a better match than this. Like, it doesn't do anything for him to lose in the manner that he did.
I'd even buy the Orton Corbin match that I mentioned before. If you would have had Randy Orton win the title back from Jinder Mahal and then Baron Corbin cashes in, I'd have been more fine with Baron Corbin heading into SummerSlam as the champion fighting Randy Orton. Mahal and Nakamura felt like the type of match like Gargano and Almas last night, where it was sort of like, we'd like to have these two guys on the card. What do we do with them? Well, we don't have anything else for them to do, so I guess they fight each other. Sure, why not? Like, I'm really kind of confused, and the fact that Nakamura can't really cut a promo and Jinder Mahal struggles with doing that makes me think that either we're going to get this stretched out into Hell in a Cell, which it's totally not a Hell in a Cell feud.
No.
Or they're just going to abandon it and we're going to move on to something else, which makes me think again, well, you just started this feud like 2 weeks ago, and you already know that it's not good enough to continue, then why did you do it a little bit? Why not wait and do this feud like next June when the guys have built up enough of themselves?
Yeah. I don't know where they're going to go with it. Like, my guys telling me that it's going to continue as a feud, but like you say, it's definitely not worthy of any sort of Hell in a Cell situation. So maybe they'll bring someone else in board to try and make it a little bit more exciting. I just think that the way that it finished, like, I almost would have, I know you don't like DQ finishes and like that, I would have preferred a DQ finish to the way this ended. Or just some other kind of distraction or roll up or something along those lines, like grabbing the ropes or something along those lines. Just something that was slightly different than what we've been seeing kind of every time that Mahal steps in the ring.
Plus, then he wouldn't have botched his finisher.
Yeah, I just like almost unforgivable along the lines of like, so you're wrestling like this style, which is, it's not terrible, but it's definitely nothing special. And then you have one move that's like slightly different than anyone else on the roster, and you fuck that up. That was the one thing that you had to do like correctly, and you fucked that up. Like, why is
there goes your rewind kind of things where it's like, oh, let's look back on how he won, and oh well, not really quite full of that, but okay, we got to rewind it over and over again.
Have to find the angle from like behind them, just make sure you don't see their arms crossing over completely wrong. It just makes Nakamura look stupid. The fact that it's not the fact that he didn't kick out of the finisher, like, it's the fact that he didn't kick out of a finisher that wasn't applied correctly.
Yeah, it wasn't like he had hit two of them ahead of time, but then that was like the third one. And
yeah.
At that point, they've had this grueling match, and he's been hit with a chair 17 times, and he just happened to hit a Colossus, and it was just enough. It's like, no, that's like botching a super kick and still getting pinned. Or
This match was 11 minutes long. That's not a WWE Championship match. That's like the match that you would be having for like maybe United States Championship or something along those lines.
How long was the Big Show Big Cass match? Do you know?
It was over 10 minutes.
Same amount of time, basically. Ugh.
Yeah, and that match was worse, but I definitely wouldn't have been. I'm definitely not going to go back and watch either of these going forward. I'd like to pretend that those matches just didn't exist.
I'd like to pretend SummerSlam just didn't exist and go back to what we were 24 hours ago.
Yeah, I'd prefer that to have been SummerSlam. Couldn't they just like repeated that? Like show a repeat of Brooklyn.
Can't just be with that one pay-per-view where like the lights went out and they had to redo it. But I will admit here, the final match of the night, the Fatal 4-Way for the Universal Championship, was a great, great match.
Yeah, there's one thing that I was thinking that not so much that SummerSlam was missing, but there had been some good matches on the show, but there hadn't been one was like an eye-catching standout battle, which is what NXT Brooklyn had. It had about 3 or 4 matches that could class as like a standout match. SummerSlam didn't have any of those yet, so this was the one match that really captured my attention.
And I still, though, I have to harp on the same thing. Fucking Brock Lesnar. They do the whole thing with him. Oh, he's getting taken out in the stretcher, and all my buddies are all sitting there going like, "Oh man, I wonder if he's really hurt," or like, "Oh, I guess we're gonna get a new champion." I was like, "No, I'm still like." This makes me even less concerned about that because he's gonna come back and he's gonna beat it, and then it's gonna have tomorrow night on Monday Night Raw. Braun Strowman's gonna come out and say, "You didn't pin me. I dominated that match." We have Braun Strowman losing to Brock Lesnar at No Mercy. And then that way you've got Brock Lesnar beats Samoa Joe, and he beats all 3 guys, and then he beats Braun Strowman, and then, oh, look at this. Roman Reigns is the guy that he didn't beat out of those people, whatever. I guess we're going to get that at WrestleMania. And in the meantime, who the fuck cares? It's Survivor Series. Who the fuck cares? It's the Royal Rumble. And I am stuck in the same position as I didn't want to be last year, you know? Pisses me off.
Yeah. I can understand that. I'm okay with Lesnar winning. I still think that his championship run has some legs to it. I don't think it's leading to, well, with Reigns taking the pin here, I don't think it's leading to Reigns and Lesnar at WrestleMania. At the moment, my gut is telling me that it's going to be Lesnar Cena at WrestleMania.
Oh, I have no interest in that either.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing that they're going to use to, first of all, cement the Universal Championship as like an actual legitimate world title, because it's still only a year old at this point. And then give Cena his 17th World Championship as well by having him beat and pretty much banish Brock Lesnar. It just seems like the sort of thing that WWE would do. I'm not entirely opposed to it, but I think there are other options. And it just screams the idea of, oh, we've only got these two legitimate stars because we haven't built up any other stars in the meantime, so we just had to bring out these two 40-year-olds to fight for our biggest prize.
Were you upset that we had no Undertaker?
No, I was delighted
I
that Undertaker didn't
didn't expect it. I would have loved it.
No, I would.
Undertaker's fucking my second favorite of all time, but a lot of people were kind of going like, he's going to interfere and he's going to be doing this, whatever, and I didn't expect it, so that wasn't a disappointment in my mind.
What I don't want him back. Not so much along the lines of, oh, I hate the Undertaker, and so I don't want him back. Like he's broken down now. Like, what more can you do with him?
Yeah,
it's like a sense of, oh yeah, you could bring him back for one more match at WrestleMania, but he's completely broken down, and he's already lost twice at WrestleMania now. So what's one more loss going to do for anybody? It's not
at
like
this point. What else is there? What does he fight John Cena and wins? Then it doesn't matter. If he loses, he already did his big loss with Roman Reigns.
Yeah, so I was fine with him not turning up. The match itself it got off to a really frantic start, as Fatal 4-Ways tend to do. Braun Strowman looked excellent in this match.
He did. Give that guy the fucking belt, you know?
I think it's leading to that. I'm hoping that it's leading to that. Obviously, I still have the idea that Cena versus Lesnar is the long-term goal, but I'd like to see Strowman actually holding the championship instead. I think he was the big star out of this match. I was actually disappointed about how Joe was used in this match. I think he was kind of the afterthought almost, which shouldn't be the case really with how he was built up leading into Great Balls of Fire, but he seems to have week by week slowly diminished in relevance in this feud. And it's been a mixture of Strowman and Lesnar, like this giant seemingly has Lesnar's number almost. And then Roman Reigns and Lesnar have always had their rivalry between each other, and Roman Reigns is the guy, so he should be the one that's taking down Lesnar along those sort of lines of thinking. But the match itself was really good. The announced table spots were well done.
That was good. He just one more table, and he's like, all right, I'll just dump it on him.
Yeah, I thought that was excellent. I think Heyman's selling of how Lesnar was struggling was brilliant, as he always is, like just screaming, oh my god, it's terrible, stop it, leave him alone. It's just, it works really well. The stretcher thing was utterly predictable, but I'm not entirely against it. I think, based on what the crowd's reaction was, they wanted either Strowman or Joe to win it.
Yeah, it seemed like it.
Obviously,
I mean, they were even doing the na hey hey goodbye for Lesnar.
Yeah, exactly. They wanted Lesnar to lose and walk out of WWE, it seems like. And I don't know if that's like a broad consensus. Obviously, it's only the crowd that was there in Brooklyn, but I think there's a lot of people that share that opinion in the WWE universe.
I think that is a good enough testament to what I keep complaining about, where you look at this match, in WWE's philosophy, you've got Brock Lesnar is the champion. He is, for the most part, a heel.
Yeah.
Samoa Joe, 100% a heel. Braun Strowman, 100% a heel. Roman Reigns, 100% a babyface, in their mind. Because if they had it their way, Roman Reigns would be getting cheered every night. I do not buy into this crap where they say, as long as he's getting a reaction, it doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. No, you want him to be a babyface. You want him to get the cheers that John Cena did in 2004.
Yeah.
And the same thing for John Cena. They want those two guys to be babyfaces. So in their mind, they're booking this as Braun Strowman and Samoa Joe. You like those guys. Those are good obstacles and stuff. But if one person's going to get cheered, then it's going to be Roman Reigns. And if one person's going to be booed, then it should be Brock Lesnar. And if people are going to be saying, hey, hey, goodbye to Brock Lesnar, man, they're going to be so excited that Roman Reigns could get that. And then it's like Roman Reigns starts getting a little offense and they boo. You would think all this positive support for Braun Strowman and Samoa Joe, they'd look at that and they'd go, yeah, we're just not doing it well enough. And if Joe and Strowman are the two that people really want to see walk away with the title at that point, all the more reason not to do Lesnar Reigns. Because you could do Lesnar Joe, Lesnar Strowman, Reigns Joe, Reigns Strowman, and it would get a better reaction than what Lesnar Reigns would.
Yeah, I completely agree. Strowman and Joe have been the two biggest stars, especially on the Raw brand for 2017. And so having them involved in the title picture at the moment is more impactful than Reigns being involved in it, which it's not a slight on Reigns. I think Reigns has been doing a very good job, but the crowd clearly don't want him to be champion, and not in the way that WWE would want it to be, in the case of like him being a heel, and that's fine with him being champion, but obviously, like you say, they want to book him as a babyface.
Yeah.
So if they don't want him to be a champion and you're going to book him as babyface, then you're just going to get the crowd more riled up every time that he's appearing. So maybe just give the belt to Joe or Strowman, who, again, aren't getting the reaction that you want to, but that's because they're fighting Reigns all the time, and that's why they're getting cheered all the time.
Yeah, you put Samoa Joe up against AJ Styles, AJ Styles is going to get cheered.
Yeah.
You put Braun Strowman up against Chris Jericho is going to get cheered. You put anybody up against Roman Reigns is going to get booed. It's like, that's just how it. That's why I really want that John Cena match, because it's like you get Cena and Reigns together, that actually gets interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to happen eventually. I just don't know if it'll happen this year.
Cross my fingers. WrestleMania 34 for the WWE or the Universal Championship, one of the two.
It's definitely a possibility. I'm sure it's crossing their mind every now and again. But it depends on how long they want to keep Lesnar in this situation. Because I think the fact that he didn't lose it at SummerSlam means that it's likely that he's holding it until WrestleMania.
Yeah, I think it's a moot point at this to even try to argue against it. He's holding it. Which then, if he drops it at No Mercy, I'll be really, really shocked.
Yeah, I mean, we don't even know who's going to be facing at No Mercy. Like, presumably it'll be Braun Strowman, but
yeah,
it might be someone
beat Strowman, and it's going to piss me off.
Yeah, that would annoy me if he just beat him 1-on-1, but I wouldn't be surprised by it. But we could just see someone completely new that wasn't even in this fatal four-way match. Yeah, you could do that Kurt Hawkins fantasy booking now. Just have him and just rise up the ranks. No, maybe do Heath Slater, because then you have the WWE champion, the Universal champion, and the NXT champion all from 3MB.
You know what? One situation where I'd be like, I think we should probably just keep it on Lesnar.
But he's got kids.
I like that with the KFC thing. I'm
the
one that's actually from the South, and I got kids. It's like, what? And that fucking Shawn Michaels dressed up as the KFC guy. Colonel Sanders beats Brock Lesnar. Do it.
Mm-hmm.
He could use another title run. He's never won the Universal title.
Yeah. It's a shame that the Colonel's never been given his fair shot.
Yeah, Colonel Mustafa never even won it.
No. I mean, his secret recipe is award-winning. He could win a championship for it.
Yeah, so this turned into one of those things where it was like, I have to acknowledge one of the highlights of the night was the match, because the match itself was great, but it's just that fucking outcome I didn't want to happen, where if that would have been, the title change would have happened here, it would have helped unsour my mood a lot for the whole night. But I would have still looked at the card and been like, well, that was a mistake, and that was a mistake, but that was a mistake. Although I will admit, because I'm always willing to admit when I'm wrong, first off, I fucking got my predictions wrong like hell. But I'm always willing to admit, too, that there's a possibility that any kind of either optimism or pessimism could be proven wrong. And I could get Monday Night Raw and Tuesday Night SmackDown this week, where by Wednesday morning, I'm looking at the situation and going, oh my God, I'm so glad that they changed all these titles around. Maybe. I highly doubt it.
Yeah. It's nice to live in hope.
Yeah, it's the only thing that keeps you going.
Yeah, especially as a wrestling fan.
Yeah. Because if I didn't hope that they would turn things around, I would have quit. And well, I already did quit for 10 years at one time, practically. And now it was 6.5 years, 7 years, something like that. Yeah. So if I stopped watching it for that long, I could have stopped watching it a long time ago too.
Mm. But I'm not as sour about Lesnar winning the match. I'm still okay with him being champion for the time being. And the fact that he didn't pin Strowman makes me happy about that, because I think that's still a match that has a lot of potential about it, especially if Strowman wins as I want it to be. Whether that does end up being the case or not is yet to be seen, but it did seem like Lesnar was willing to sell for this guy and make him look as strong as possible. Even though Lesnar won the match, I think Strowman came a bit out of it looking like the most dominant and the strongest. So that's a positive sign. I was very happy with the match. I think the match was clearly match of the night, especially for the main card. The only thing that even drove it close in my mind was the Usos and the New Day tag team match. So yeah, it was a good way to end a very mixed show, in my opinion.
I think it was a very, very good match with a bad ending to end a bad show. Yeah. Looking forward to all the comments below of Tony doesn't like anything. Why are you still watching then if you don't, whatever? Which I'll tell you ahead of time. If you're one of these people leaving one of those comments, I'll probably just going to delete it. I don't really fucking go with it anymore. But if you do legitimately think that this was like a great card and you really, really liked all the matches and stuff, share the optimism. Tell us in the comments below. I don't care if you disagree with me on that, as long as you're not a jerk about it. And I really want to... The more optimism I hear from people, the more that'll make me happy about stuff. Because at the very least, you get a little bit of happiness seeing that other people are happy. Because I'm not the type of guy that's like, I'd rather be right that it sucked than to be wrong and that it was good, or, one of those kind of things. No, if a lot of people love it and I'm the one oddball out, then it still doesn't make it good for me. But at the same time, at least I can justify it a little bit as like, maybe I'm the one out of touch. If everybody hated it, then it's a different story. But it seems like it's a mixed bag. I've been hearing good things, bad things. I know everybody that watched it at when I was watching it at Daze's, everybody disliked it. And to certain varying degrees, like my buddy Dane seemed to hate it even a little bit more than I did. And Dace didn't really like it all that much. And Eric was kind of like, oh, well, it wasn't that bad, but he's not too invested in it anyway. So to him, it's like, I just hung out with my buddies for a couple of hours, that kind of a thing, which sometimes it's the best way to look at things. And when you run a website and you have to analyze everything, then you find yourself nitpicking and stuff. And
I'm sure there was a lot of people that just were happy about things that I wasn't happy about. Maybe some people liked the Big Cass match. Maybe some people were, I don't know, happy that Mahal won. But I think if anybody leaves in the comments that they thought the Rusev Randy Orton thing was a good segment, then I think you just need to stop watching wrestling.
That's the only thing where I can say opinions are opinions, but if you think that was good, then you're wrong.
Yeah.
But we have talked about this for almost 2 hours. We're almost an entire pre-show here. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. This is the longest breakdown that we've done in a long, long time. And it's good to throw those long things out there every once in a while. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it and you're not looking at this and going, an hour 42, what the fuck? But if you made it this way, all the way through, then yay, you got to the end. So, Callum, anything you want to toss out for the plug side of things?
You can follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. Do check out Smark Out Moment on Twitter as well, because I was doing the live tweeting for that. I'd hope to do a bit more in the future. The time difference makes it pretty impossible without me having days off of work. But when I do have the opportunity, I'll make sure to keep doing that. And obviously check out all the weekly articles. We'll obviously be doing a triple threat piece to recap SummerSlam, and a lot of other stuff going out during the week, so do check that out.
Definitely do that, everybody. SmarkOutMoment.com is where you're going to find all that stuff, and if you are going to be following us on social media, follow us at SmarkOutMoment on Facebook and Twitter. If you are listening to this on iTunes and Stitcher, leave us a little bit of a comment on there, hopefully a good one. If you are listening to us on YouTube, then there's a couple things that you should do there. You should, of course, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done it already. You could also ring that bell and check off that you want notifications for any kind of updates that are going on, because we do have, obviously, more content coming your way. The next main event is going to be the mailbag for August, which I looked at my notes last night and I realized I had skipped a week. So next week is episode number 300, if I remember correctly. Or maybe it's 299. I think it's 299 now that I'm thinking about it.
You made me celebrate for nothing. God, I feel stupid. I feel stupid now.
It is 299. What I had skipped was I had written down mailbag as being episode 300 instead of 299. So it doesn't change that the mailbag is next week. A lot of questions we had. I think it was like 52 or 58 or something last time I checked. So I'm gonna try to narrow some of them down. If you didn't get all your questions answered, then keep them for next time around or something. But we kind of touched on some of them with like predictions talk and review talk, like, what do you think about Sanity? It's like, well, we talked about Sanity a little bit, so nothing too shocking when it comes to that stuff. But I'm going to be trying to take some suggestions of what you'd like to see for episode number 300, because that's going to be a tough week as far as trying to cram work in, but it's episode 300, so I still want to do something interesting. And right now I'm thinking the go-to thing could just be not having an actual main event and just sort of bullshitting with as many people as I can get as possible. But maybe we'll do like a Smark announce table. Maybe we'll do some kind of a special play the game episode or something. So if you guys have any suggestions, leave them in the comments below what you'd like to see. And stay tuned for all that stuff that's coming your way. Hot tags will probably be next, and that's either going to be Monday night or Tuesday night, depending on my availability and how many hot tags there are. I know one of them is going to be about a bunch of photo leaks, so that's at least some kind of a thumbnail.
Yeah, that's good. That's always a good way to get a few more hits.
Yeah, and then to get taken down because it's limited or no ads because it's pornographic material and whatever. But,
a few more hits for a couple of tits.
Yeah, there you go. So that's what's coming your way, everybody. Stay tuned for that stuff. Keep checking the website and all the outside interference articles and stuff like that are going to be coming up. And we will see you next time. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.